Did you know Muhammad, Prophet of Islam, once threatened to burn down the house of Muslims who skip Friday prayer? And that's not a clickbait at all, that is simply from Sahih Muslim. And now, in 2025, Malaysia isn't burning down the houses, but they are jailing Muslims and fining them if they miss Jummah. Let's take a look at how Malaysia is trying to enforce Islam today. First, let's look at Muhammad's own teaching. Even in Muhammad's own time, people missed Friday prayer. The Quran itself records how when caravan rolled into town, people literally walked out of Muhammad's sermon. Yeah, he was very bad, boring, and dangerous preacher, but people walked out of his sermon for trade, leaving him standing there just with 12 guys. Later, Muhammad warned that if someone neglects 3 Friday prayers in row, Allah will seal their heart. That's already pretty scary and terrifying spiritual punishment. But at the end, you can say, well, Allah is the one who is sealing the hearts of Muslims. But then there is more. Sahih Muslim tells us Muhammad stating, burn the house of those who absent themselves from Jummah. So burn house of Muslims who do not turn up Friday prayer. That is not a spiritual warning anymore. That's simply violent threat. And 2025, well, people might go to prison for such a threat. And of course, scholars picked up on this. You look at Muslim scholars talking about missing Friday prayer without excuse is a major sin, and you are seen as disobedient, that those who abandoned Jummah deserves punishment by the agreement of Muslims. So the scholars are not softening anything. They are echoing Muhammad's tone. Muhammad talked about sealing of the hearts and even burning the house of Muslims, simply missing the Friday prayer. The scholars turned that into major sin and deserve punishment. It is the same logic, just systematized. And fast forward today, apostasy is rising. People are walking away from Islam. Mosques are being emptied in Muslim majority countries. Mosques are being closed in Muslim majority countries. And response, instead of asking why people are leaving Islam, the government is trying to force them back in. Malaysia, the new law says missing Friday prayer once without valid excuse, you could face prison. And valid excuse can be, well, it is bad weather, you are sick, you are traveling. So you will end up in prison for 2 years and thousands in payment. And the way they will catch you is your neighbor, your co-worker, your community is the one becomes snitcher. So the people kind of who share life with at work or in your neighborhood are the ones who are gonna snitch you to government. So instead of worship being about God, it becomes about fear of state. Instead of place of peace, the mosque becomes simply checkpoints. And honestly, I am looking at this from outside, reading this report, and all I see is Malaysia is preparing for more apostasy. Malaysia is setting stage for more Muslims to become ex-Muslims, because every time Islam tries to force worship, just look at Iran, it drives people far away. They haven't learned. They are pushing people out instead of throwing them in. And here's the bigger problem. If you are praying, so just you don't go to jail, are you really praying? If you are bowing down your head so that you don't have to pay fine, is that real devotion? Or is that simply you are bullied into something? A forced religion doesn't transform hearts. It simply manufactures, gives birth to hypocrisy, outward obedience, and inside you are just empty. So here's the irony. I hear again and again and again from Muslims and even from non-Muslims. There is no compulsion in religion. There is no compulsion in religion. It repeats like a slogan. But what happened to that in Malaysia? There is no compulsion when you are threatening to put people in jail for missing one prayer. The moment the rabbi hits the road, the slogan simply disappears. And here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. True God, God of Bible, doesn't need your prayers. He doesn't delight in forced religion. He calls for worship from the heart, freely and joyfully given. That's the real worship, not the kind that comes with the threat of fine or prison. See, true God doesn't need to force you to bow down. He makes you to want to bow down because you have seen His goodness. He doesn't seal your heart shut in punishment, but He opens it wide with grace. And that's the difference between religion of compulsion and the God of love. This God doesn't need to threaten you into worship. He doesn't seal your heart shut. He opens it. He doesn't drag you into mosque. He draws you into His love. The true God, the God of Bible, is not after forced ritual. He wants your heart. He wants you to delight in Him, not fear of jail. And that's the difference. Fear builds prison. Fear paralyzes people. Love sets people free.